Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college off-season podcast where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the off-season. The 2026 college basketball season officially comes to a close, and it officially propels us into our regular season as the off-season podcast. But first, we did crown a national champion. Michigan claimed their first national championship since 1989, defeating the UConn Huskies 69-63. Now, despite this very impressive moment, our very own Matt McClellan is in his negative era, saying in the Less is More Sports group chat that this was the worst title game since UConn and Butler back in 2011. Now, Matt, have you had a change of heart since you put it in the group chat, or are you officially going to make it podcast official?
For the record, I sent that to the group chat where there were 9 minutes to go in the game, and there were about 24 team fouls, and it was still in the 40s. So, I changed that opinion a bit at the end of the game when it got to be 6 points. But I mean, at that point, it was just kind of like it was a disappointment because I was expecting UConn was playing incredibly well. Michigan had been playing incredibly well. And then, like, Yaxel Landenberg's leg had to go do something funky. And everyone decided to play defense for the first time in a long time. And it's like, oh, okay. So this is kind of like the culmination of two teams who have beaten the crap out of a lot of other good teams and are now just tired. But it got good at the end. It got better at the end. I mean, it wasn't like an all-time stone cold classic. But it got better than being that god-awful Butler UConn game, which, man, just thinking about that makes me sad because I thought that was going to be like the game of the century. It's like, oh, Butler's going to do it, or UConn with this miraculous run, and instead it's like, no, we're taking basketball back to the 1970s at best. So, but no, it got better than that. I am in my negative era. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. I was feeling it, but you know what? It got better, and it got better in about 10 minutes. So that's all I'm going to say. It was really bad until it wasn't.
I can't even argue that. One thing that did surprise me about the game was that UConn actually out-rebounded Michigan 46-39, but even more so 20-10 on the offensive glass. Of course, Michigan won on free throws and points in the paint. Now, Matt, here's the million-dollar question that I have for you.
Oh, boy.
According to KenPom, this Michigan team is the second highest rated team in the KenPom era with a 39.72 net rating before the national championship game. So, that being said, with this national championship officially concluded, Matt, we crowned a champion. We do it every year. Do we do it with this Michigan team? Are they dare I say, the best team ever? We do it every year in college football?
Yeah, we do it every year in college football. But let me tell you something. I would be more willing to entertain an argument for Michigan being one of the best, if not the best, college basketball team of all time this year more than I would take that whole IU is better than 2019 LSU, which was just ludicrous because Michigan was doing this all year. I know that they had 3 losses, 2 teams that were, well, Duke was really good. Purdue was a Big Ten tournament champion. And then there was that Wisconsin loss, which kind of aged like milk because of what happened with High Point. But, I mean, if you look at everything else Michigan did, they've destroyed an Arizona team that we thought was going to be game of the century material. They set the highest margin of victory in a regional final since like 1989. They beat Gonzaga, a team that they beat tournament teams like Gonzaga by 40 points as early as November of last year. This Michigan team was pretty damn good all year long. And I mean, there was never a time, I mean, we kind of hinted at it. It's like, do they have a weakness? We talked about it a little bit. They figured it out. They got McKinney playing at a high level. They lose their backup point guard in LJ. And it's like, okay, maybe they do have a weakness. They don't have a weakness. They just never had a weakness. They never showed a weakness. And even the 3 games they played, it was never like, oh, man, Michigan's got problems. They're getting blown out here. It was, no, this is a close game against a high competition team. And frankly, it's nice to win the Big Ten tournament, but Michigan didn't need to win that tournament. There was no way they weren't a 1 seed. There was no way that they were going to fall on a seed line. They were fine. The Duke game, they were playing Duke on a neutral site. That kind of shit happens. I mean, even if you're a good team, when you're playing another top five team, sometimes they get the bounces, sometimes they make the shots. It's just what happens. So yeah, I would entertain this Michigan team being top five all time. And the thing that really bugs me about that whole thing is hearing about how this team ruined college basketball. We'll probably get to that later, so I'm going to save that take. But yeah, when you look at this body of work, from absolutely dominating the players tournament, absolutely dominating the NCAA tournament, even in close games, it never really felt like they were in any danger. They just had that je ne sais quoi about them that led to the aura being there. It's like, yeah, this is a national championship team. So yeah, I would entertain Michigan. I don't know about the best because basketball is such a touchy game that changes from year to year. So I don't know about the best of all time, but certainly one of the top five most memorable, dominant runs I have seen from a college basketball national champion.
I did see a Michigan fan on Twitter entertain the idea that if Yaxel was fully healthy, because he was dealing with the knee injury, he was dealing with
Yeah.
the ankle injury in the national championship game. He said if Yaxel was healthy, that this Michigan team clears the 2024 UConn team. Now that I think is an interesting conversation.
Oh, I would pay to watch that game. I would pay obscene amounts of money to watch that game. I would subscribe to Fubo to watch that game.
That's a bold statement because ain't nobody subscribing to Fubo.
Well, that lets you know how good of a matchup it would be. But
Exactly.
I would do that. Yeah, I would love to see that game.
Personally, I'm gonna go with UConn on that. I think that UConn team was I mean, without making too big of a statement because that's not what we're here to talk about today. I do think that UConn team is near the top
Oh yeah,
of the
they're a
best
great
teams of
team.
all time. I mean, the numbers say it. They're the way they dominated through the NCAA tournament, set a record for points per game margin.
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, that team was just a well-oiled machine from start to finish. I mean, they very easily could have finished undefeated if not for a couple hiccups here and there. I still think they should have won at Allen Fieldhouse because that was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen in my life. And very clearly, the refs were favoring the Jayhawks. But I say this as actually low-key a UConn hater, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
oh, we will. I know. Yeah, we've been really blessed with well, not blessed, but we've been really intrigued by a lot of the teams we've had coming around this year, whether it be Florida or the back-to-back UConn or the dominance of the second UConn team, the surprise of the first with Sonogo, and that Florida team last year was really interesting because they seemed to win every game in cardiac fashion, and the dominance of this Michigan. We've had a lot of teams with a lot of good narratives over the past few years.
But as for UConn, I do have something that I think is interesting here
Oh,
because I had a coworker ask me the question, is this era of UConn basketball similar to Duke in the 90s?
ooh, hmm.
And even more ooh, I have to say yes.
Oh. Well, I was wondering where you were going to take this because I could see this argument. Go on, go on. I got to hear this.
They're dominant. They've won 2 titles, added another Final Four. Plus, not to mention, if you look at Duke from 1991 to 1994 and UConn over the last 4 years, they both went back to back, lost in the round of 32, and then lost in the national championship game. But not to mention, they're slowly becoming a team that fans either love or hate with little to no in between. I mean, of course, to top it off, they have a Hurley. That doesn't
Exactly.
hurt. But I do think the difference between Duke's love hate mantra and UConn's is Duke's was more from a cultural aspect. For many reasons, but in the 90s, there were some culturally prominent teams like the UNLV Running Rebels, like the Michigan Fab Five. UConn's whole love hate mantra is centered around their coach being a total jackhole.
Yeah, that's
If
pretty
you
much
still
it.
like Danny Hurley, okay, sorry, I have to get this rant out of the way. Who else but Danny Hurley can headbutt a freaking ref and get away with it? No tech, no nothing. And to top it off, I think the worst part about it was that after the game he was asked about it and he goes, "Oh, I thought the ref wanted to chest bump me." I'm sorry. If you are coaching a game and you think that a ref wants to chest bump you, there is a much bigger problem there. Can you imagine, being a Duke fan here, can you imagine after like the river shot? You just see Coach K and a ref just run up to each other doing this little chest bump thing. I mean, of course, Coach K was old at that time, so I mean, it probably would have
There
did some
goes his
serious
hip.
damage to him. But yeah, can you imagine? That was like kind of the height, the beginning of the Twitter verse madness and all that stuff. It would have the app would have crashed.
Now you could do it with AI if you wanted to. That's story for another time.
Speaking of which, did you see the AI video of Cam Boozer punching John Shire?
Yes.
He punches John Shire and then just goes, you shouldn't have recruited my brother. I'm like, dog, what?
Dude, why are people doing this?
Why is AI is getting out of control? They're stealing our water and they're making videos that Cam Boozer would never
They're
do.
tearing the Boozer family apart.
It's literally destroying families.
AI destroying families, the water supply, data centers. And they're saying that, like, I love this because my mom will send me a post every once in a while from an AI thing. It's like, Coach Signetti announces he has terminal cancer. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why? Mike Woodson Mike Woodson punched Fred Glass, and it's like, oh my God, people, can we get a life here? Is that too much to ask? But
We have more important, if you are going to use AI, we have more important things to use it for than to make videos of coaches punching players.
and lying about cancer diagnoses. Oh my God. Okay, back to the Duke thing. Yeah, the Danny Hurley. That's where we left off before AI took over the podcast.
Oh yeah, Danny Hurley. Like,
Danny
I mean,
Hurley.
yeah, I give Danny Hurley all the credit in the world because he is a phenomenal coach, and UConn is a well-oiled machine every year. But all the love-hate mantra that comes from that side is strictly just because Danny Hurley is so unlikable. I know I did a segment about Todd Golden and how insufferable he was, but obviously the real most insufferable coach in college basketball is Danny Hurley.
And that's the incredible thing too, is like as long as he keeps winning, no one's gonna get tired of it. Especially on the East Coast.
Oh, I think we're all going to get tired of it, but
I
no
don't know.
one's
He's
really going to
quietly
check him
pretty.
like that. No one's going to check him like that because, like, hey, he's got the rings to back it up.
That's true.
And if you didn't know that, he'll tell you in every press conference, when I have a bad day, I just look down and I see 2 rings. Bro, we get it.
I
Coach K got
mean,
5 of them things.
if you got it, you gotta flaunt it. That's all you
Hey,
especially in the modern era.
listen, it ain't tricking if you got it, right?
Exactly. It ain't tripping at all.
It's tricking, but,
Oh,
hey, we'll go with it.
tripping,
We got to put some seasoning on you, Matt.
tripping chicken, kicking chicken sandwich at Zaxby's. It's all good.
It's all That's awesome. But anyways, at the conclusion of this college basketball season, I went back and listened to our cap and no cap episode at the beginning of the college basketball season, and I actually got to say we did a great job because there really wasn't too much that we got wrong. I think the biggest critique in hindsight that I could take a look back at that episode and say is that maybe we didn't talk enough about Michigan, the team that went on to win the national championship. But other than that, we were pretty much spot on about every other take. We talked about Kansas because we remember the Twitterverse was completely sold into the Darren Peterson hype, and we're all sold in the Darren Peterson hype. But we weren't sold that Darren Peterson by himself was going to make Kansas this powerhouse that was going to run through the Big 12.
And they were not.
They were not. I will say, I was right over you and Ryan about Duke winning the ACC yet again. Y'all both picked Louisville. I picked Duke.
Well, that's mostly just for the love of the game.
That's for the love of the game. I respect it.
If we would have picked Duke, then it would have been like I knew y'all were on my side, and then it wouldn't have been any fun to annoy you.
I know we agreed the first 3 takes of the show, and I was like, please don't tell me and Matt are going to agree the entire show. That'll be no fun.
That happens a lot though because we know the ball.
We know ball, yeah.
We know ball. Because I must say, I remember I was proud about being high on the Landenberg train, even from the UAB days. It's like I'm telling you, this guy's gonna be really good. I don't think he did not win Player of the Year, but he was close. Damn it, he was close.
Well, Cam Boozer won Player of the Year.
Which should have been Boopy Miller, but
No. Cam Boozer won National Player of
no,
the
no,
Year.
it still should have been Boopy Miller.
Oh my! I know you were on the Booby Miller hype train for ACC Player of the Year, but
No, I just do that. I just had to give you a little call back there, just for shits and giggles.
I do it to myself. I do it to myself. But overall, can you think of any takes that you made, whether preseason or even midseason, that you think either look really good or really bad in hindsight that you just want to get off your chest?
I don't know if I was too. I think if I had to pick one, it would be either being I. But I don't know if I was too high or too low on Nebraska. It's so hard to tell because they did make it all the way to the Sweet 16, and then they get upset by Iowa of all things. But it's like, does it really count if they lose to a team that's like the exact same things they are? But then again, they also had four players on the court, so that was probably a bad take. I don't know. I don't know. The Nebraska take from midseason, I think, is starting to get to me. St. Louis, though, that was a good one. I feel so bad for St. Louis. They just ran into an absolute buzzsaw. So it's hard to be like, oh, that was a bad take when they run into the national champions who score like 90 points a game in the tournament. So it's like, well,
And are the second highest rated Ken Palm team of all time.
and it's like, well, is that really a bad take? And they did win a game quite impressively over Georgia. So, and even the Miami, Ohio thing, I was really worried about that, especially after the UMass loss. And then, I had to sacrifice Boopy Miller to get Peter Suter, but it worked. It worked. And then it's exhaustion against Tennessee. And then, Tennessee ended up being a lot better than we thought until they ran into the buzzsaw. So it's like, well, it is what it is. It's all about the breaks in the tournament. And they didn't get some good ones, but they made it. They both won a game, made me look pretty good. And, now I can hype up the next undefeated mid major next season and feel a little bit better about it.
I mean, for making predictions about a half a year out away from the conclusion of the college basketball season is always hard. But I have to say, again, after listening, I think we did a phenomenal job.
I think we did too, because I really don't remember us having any like totally out there things that completely fell apart like the year before.
The take that worried me at first, when preseason happened and then the first early games of the season happened, is I made a take that said that St. John's had 2009 North Carolina potential. And at first I was a little worried because, they looked kind of shaky in preseason. And then, of course, they dropped a couple games early on. They lost to
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky. But then they win 20 of their last 21 games. And, of
Win the
course,
Big East.
they win the Big East again. And then, of course, they lose in, a nail-biting fashion to my Duke Blue Devils. I mean, that was a great game. That game took years off my life for many reasons, but overall, like St. John's looked really good in the last 20 some odd games to end the season. So I don't feel bad about that take at all.
And that team being a 5 seed was just almost inconceivable given what they did down the stretch.
That whole
Like you
side of
said,
the bracket was inconceivable. I mean, you look at the Hall of
the
Fame
region was
coaches.
inconceivable.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The East region. That's what I meant. I should have worded it better, but that's what I meant. The East region. I mean, you have all these Hall of Fame coaches. You have the number one overall seed, and it's like, I thought it was fitting because that was the season Duke had had. Being the Duke fan and all, is that we go out and have a tough non-conference schedule. We're expecting the ACC to be stronger, and Shire's embracing the mantra of to be the best, we got to beat the best. So I wouldn't really have a problem with it. So I didn't really complain too much about it, but. Yes, in all reality, it was a tough break for the number one overall seed. But again, if you have championship aspirations, you have to beat who's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
To be the best, you have to beat the best.
And beat who's in front of you.
Exactly. But anyways, that concludes the college basketball regular season portion of this podcast that we're going to talk about. And of course, we officially propel into our regular season as the off-season podcast, and the off-season of college basketball hit the ground running because North Carolina, they said that they were going to make a splash in the coaching hire. And of course, all the names that are typically thrown around whenever a blue blood coach gets fired that are so unrealistic but realistic at the same time. You have Billy Donovan thrown out there. You have Dusty May thrown out there. You have Todd Golden thrown out there. You have, who else? Help me out here, Matt. Oh, Nate Oates thrown out there.
Boyd.
Who?
Tommy Lloyd.
Tommy Lloyd thrown out there. And some of those, it's like, okay, you're reaching a little bit. But then they make a complete splash. And they hire Mike Malone, former NBA champion head coach for the Denver Nuggets. And now they have this kind of identity of being last chance UNC. That is my favorite thing I've seen on Twitter the entire week.
It has been pretty great.
Between hiring Bill Belichick as the football coach, now hiring Mike Malone as the basketball coach. Matt, are they going to hire Ozzie Guillen as like the baseball coach now?
I saw one that said they should hire Tony La Russa.
I saw Tony La Russa too.
That made me that's what we need. We need Tony La Russa in college baseball.
Tony La Russa needs to get back into coaching altogether.
He'd see some of these celebrations in these college baseball games. I think go out in his Humvee and like come back and just drive all over the field and protest and anger. I really do think that.
And I mean, no telling who he would be able to recruit. Like maybe if Yadier or Albert's kids start playing baseball, and just recruit them and be like a straight nepotism of the St. Louis Cardinals teams from the 2000s. Or Scott Rowland had a kid and he just puts him at third.
How many kids does Matt Holliday have? Maybe we can make that happen.
Well, the problem is they're all getting drafted.
See, well, one of them could take a year off. We are not a baseball recruiting podcast. We have no idea what the heck we're talking about. Yeah. We're just waiting for Miles Mikolas Jr. to suit up and
following college football and college basketball recruiting is a lot. Following college baseball would probably make my brain explode at this point.
I think that like the collective, I think my like immune system would just collapse with that because there would just be too much information. I would be overwhelmed.
It would be overwhelming. But overall, I mean, Mike Malone, yes, definitely making a splash hire as the next North Carolina head coach. And now I'm hearing rumors that he has connections to some of the same people that at Illinois that have connections with these international players. And don't look now, he's looking to hit the portal hard. I know a lot of people have already either declared or left or transferred out from North Carolina. But of course, a name that is thrown out there that intrigues me a little bit is Mika Murinen. And if you know a little something about that Murinen family tree, his mama played at North Carolina.
That is true.
So does that family tie get Mika Murinen in a Tar Heel jersey? We will find out. So anyways.
I had to confirm something, though. That's why I was looking at my phone there. I saw a post that said that they were thinking of hiring Kim English as an assistant, and that turned out to be fake.
Yes. There have been so much fake news. That is the worst part about portal season, is that all these spam accounts come from out of the woodwork and they start posting all these fake news.
It's just ridiculous because, I'm watching people. Somebody DM'd a recruit and said, hey, are you coming to campus this weekend? And the player actually responded. And I'm like, why are we doing stalker behavior on like 18-year-olds? And I mean, the message is like, hey, I heard you were coming to campus. Be sure to say hi. It's like, okay, let's not be creepy, people. So, yeah, portal season is just – it's been crazy in the past, but this year feels like it's on steroids. I mean, there was that fake report that said there were like 2,000 players in the portal or something.
No, there actually are. That's been confirmed.
That's been confirmed?
That's been confirmed, yeah.
Because somebody said that it was like untrue. I saw a community note on it. And
Jeff Goodman confirmed it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, like, 4 days into the transfer portal, we got 2,000 players in,
and there are only like 5,000 spots available in like college basketball overall. So it's insane. Like half the players that are in the sport are already in the portal, and I think they should be. I mean, if you're a player of any worth, during this period, especially before the regulations kick in and all that stuff, if you're worth anything, you got to go out and try and make a little bit of money, even if you just stay put. It's like a contract negotiation, a holdout in the NFL. Go and make your money.
Exactly.
But it's just insane because with that many players in the portal, it's like, I can't even tell you what we're going to talk about. I can't even tell you who's going where probably or who's on what roster until we do that cap or no cap in like 6 months because God only knows.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun this offseason. We're going to be doing a lot of podcasts where we're talking about all the craziness that's going on.
Ugh. hopefully Nikola Jokic doesn't have any college eligibility, or we're in big trouble.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think we're safe there.
I don't know.
But
This
you know who
Tony
we're not safe from?
Will Wade?
Him too.
Oh
But
no.
another year of eligibility and another school for PJ Haggerty, who before we got
Yes,
on the show
I
committed
saw
to
this.
Texas A&M.
He's going to play some buckyball now, and buckyball is fun. I'm going to admit it's fun. PJ Haggerty is just one of those guys who I remember back when we were doing like one of the first episodes together, and we were talking about him going to Memphis, and now we're like 2 schools later. It's
Kansas
incredible.
State. I mean, he started at TCU, went to Tulsa, then to Memphis, then he followed Jerome Tang to Kansas State, and now he's wrapping up his college career. We don't think he has any eligibility left. It'd be a miracle if he did, but now he's officially going to finish his college career at Texas A&M. And of course, Texas A&M, you're getting a good player. TJ Haggerty
Yeah.
scored over 23 points per game the last 3 seasons.
And with
There's not much else you could say.
And with Mbako coming off an injury, that's going to be something interesting to see too. Those two combined, that's a good start. And we've already had like a couple surprising moves today alone because I saw Miles Colvin going from Wake Forest to Cincinnati. That's a big pickup for Calhoun, trying to get his tenure off at UC off the right way. That's a pretty big move. And we actually had a player leave Texas A&M to Ruben Dominguez going to play for Richard Pitino at Xavier, among other moves. So the moves are starting to trickle out, but I mean the best one so far, Les, and you can agree or disagree because I got to hear your take on this. Is we've had our first Marfo, and it's beautiful with Denzel Aberdeen going from the national champion Florida Gators to UK, where he played in pretty well this year, going back to the Florida Gators. I don't know why. I just love it when people Marfo and go back to like their prior school, especially with like the vitriol that we had between like him and the Florida players and Todd Golden and Mark Pope. I think probably don't like each other very much. Just
I'm
gonna
going to
go
go out on a
on
limb and say you're
gonna
probably
go
onto
on a
something.
limb there and say those two probably don't have the best relationship. So it's interesting to see a guy go from like one side of the rivalry to the other and then back. So that's been my favorite move so far. Do you have any takes on that or that move specifically, or
When
any
I
other?
see moves like that, it goes to show that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Yes, he got more of a scoring opportunity at Kentucky this year, but when you leave a team that was fresh off of winning a national championship, and you go to a team like Kentucky that was expected to be great with all the things they did in the portal last year. And then, of course, injuries happen, which I do not give Kentucky fans a pass for because that is what every Kentucky media outlet and Kentucky spam Twitter account and you name it told me was the whole reason they did this in the portal was to prepare for injuries. And then, of course, they want to use the injuries as an excuse. It's like, okay, you don't get that. But regardless, it goes to show when you leave a well-oiled machine or a well-run program like Florida and go to a program with a little bit of uncertainty, like a new tenured coach at Kentucky who had some good things happen in year one, but then a complete roster shakeup in year two, and a bunch of things that could go right, a bunch of things that could go wrong. And yes, you get your numbers, but again, you're not having the team success that you were looking for. So it goes to show that grass isn't always greener on the other side. Now he has a chance to go back to Florida, a team that, with who they could potentially have next year,
Mm-hmm.
it's not concrete that Thomas Hugh is going to stay in the NBA draft. I think you end up will, but it's still not concrete. There's a chance. There's a chance Alex Condon could come back. There's a chance Ruben Shenilou could come back. There's a chance Boogie Flan could come back. And you insert the year Denzel Aberdeen had this year and plug it into this Florida roster.
That's a pretty good team right there.
That could be a national championship favorite team because I think he's going to be better at the two spot than Xavier Lee was for him this year, at least on the defensive side alone.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Of course, we just hit the 10-minute mark, so we're gonna speed through a couple things. Of course, my Blue Devils lost two to the portal, Darren Harris and Nick Hemenia. Darren Harris, I know he's visiting Virginia and IU scheduled right now. I say don't sleep on Virginia Tech. He's from Fairfax, Virginia. They were the last school to offer him before he committed to Duke. Nick Hemenia, He's leaving after a semi-productive freshman season at Duke. There's rumors out that he's been offered 3 times his Duke contract to play somewhere. It's worth noting that he is from out west. More than likely will go back out west. But of course, the biggest news I gotta talk about my Texas Longhorns real quick because Vochi's coming back.
Oh yeah, I
Modest
did see that.
Vocatitis is coming back for year 2 in a Texas uniform. And that is one of the biggest moves of the portal that didn't result in a player leaving because
Which I am
Vochi
kind of
is going to
surprised
be one of
by.
the best bigs in the SEC alt next year. And that is a massive, massive return for Sean Miller in year 2 of his Texas regime.
Yeah,
Also, for my Texas Longhorns, they are the favorites to land David Punch in the transfer portal. Maybe that's why Cam Heide left. But David Punch, one of the top forwards in the transfer portal, formerly of TCU. A lot of Texas fans on Twitter are making jokes about it. It's like you picked the wrong school in Texas the first go around. Don't make the same mistake twice. So a front court with Vochi and David Punch could be very scary for in Austin next year. Sean Miller, you might have something on your hands. Like I said, I've been skeptical of the Sean Miller hire at first, but he's made me a believer with this Sweet 16 run.
yeah, and plus, when you can get, they probably had to give him his own Lamborghini, so it evens out in the end.
Well, we got plenty of those.
I know, I know.
We're giving out left and right on the football team. I think the basketball team can borrow a few.
They only get like what would be a step below a Lamborghini? A Shelby Cobra?
I'd say that's a few steps below.
I know nothing about cars other than they go vroom. So
Well, I mean, you got that part right.
car go vroom. Minivan though, minivans don't go vroom.
Oh, we haven't even talked about one of the biggest names in the portal, Rob Wright.
Well, he's going to Wright State.
Of course he is.
If
I,
anything else,
I'm
would be
I still am
wrong.
sold on the idea that wherever Tyron Stokes goes is where Rob Wright is going to go because now he can officially say that I played with the last 3 number 1 overall recruits. Of course, he played with Cooper Flagg at
Mhm.
Montverde. He played with AJ Dabonsa at BYU. If he plays with Tyron Stokes, wherever Tyron Stokes decides to go, he will now have played with the last 3 number 1 overall recruits.
Which is actually kind of neat. I bet Kentucky or Kansas would probably be very eager to would be eager to hear that. So,
I say don't sleep on Arkansas. I still say that.
they'll just give them all the nuggets.
I will say because like I'm hearing Rob Wright connected to Arkansas, and I don't understand that. The reason I say that is because a big reason why Jordan Smith Jr. committed to Arkansas was so that Cal could potentially develop him as a point guard. But if you land Rob Wright's going to run the point. You're going to move Jordan Smith Jr. to the 2, and now he's really not going to get a lot of run at the point.
Hmm.
So if that's the reason you went to Arkansas, why not have just went to Duke?
Well, not everyone has to go to Duke, Les.
Well, no, but Duke was the favorite to land him for the longest time. And then, of course, if you want to develop as a guard and you pick John Calipari, I get that.
Hmm.
But if you're wanting to develop as a point guard and you're going to end up not playing point guard, because Duke probably wasn't going to play a point guard after the commitment of Darren Rippey Jr., the potential return of Caden Boozer and or Caleb Foster. Might as well just went to Duke and did what you were going to do this year at Arkansas. That's what I say. Not everybody's got to go to Duke, but
Yeah,
I'm just
Duke
saying.
probably has too much money in the other players anyway. Arkansas. He's
You
getting the
mean
Walmart
you
money,
mean like Flory Badunga?
pretty much. Yeah, that's
I will say like that is my dream scenario for this Duke offseason. As far as the bigs go, is if Patrick Gomba comes back, Cam Williams moves down to the 4, and then Flory Badunga comes in and accepts the Malik Brown role. I would say for most schools, if you're going to bring in the number 1 player in the portal and bring them off the bench, that probably wouldn't be too appealing. But when I look at what Malik Brown did the last 2 years at Duke, he won College Defensive Player of the Year this year. He was a team that no NBA team was even thinking of talking about while he was at Syracuse, and now his 2 years at Duke, they're talking about him potentially going in the second round despite having little to no offense in his game. I look at Flory Badunga, and he's a very similar player in that regard. I mean, outside of some buckets down low, some putbacks, he's really not what's the word I'm looking for? A well-versed offensive player. He's basically energy and defense.
A dynamic scorer.
He is definitely not a dynamic scorer.
Well, I was thinking, helping you come up with the anti-word.
Fair. But again, he is a defensive superstar. So if you look at the success that Malik Brown had last year and the year before, and you tell Flory Badunga, it's like, hey, you can be that times 10 because there's some things that Flory Badunga brings to the table that are more valuable than Malik Brown. Malik Brown is a menace as a perimeter defender. Quick hands, gets a lot of batted passes. I mean, led Duke in deflections the last 2 years. But Badunga being the rim protector that he is, that's what's really valuable, or what NBA scouts view as valuable on the defensive side of the ball from a big man. And that was the one thing that Malik Brown really wasn't great at. As great as of a defender as he was everywhere else, on-ball defense, off-ball defense, denying passes, playing the passing lanes, getting steals, he wasn't a great rim protector. You took it at him, you pretty much were going to score as long as you held on to the ball. Now that part's hard, but when you did it, you had success against Malik Brown. Flory's not like that. You take it at Flory, you're probably going to get swatted to the third row.
Probably, yes.
So I think that would be my pitch to John Shire. I know a lot of people are thinking Louisville has a 100% chance to land him. I'm not necessarily sold on that. And look, I get it. He'll probably start at Louisville before he would probably start at Duke if all the things I think could happen would happen. Not to mention he can keep in the Adidas NIL market,
which is a big deal there too.
Exactly. And he's demanding what? I've heard what, 4 or 5 million from the portal?
I've heard 5, yeah, 5.5.
A lot of money, regardless. So, but that if I'm John Shire, I literally just sit Flory Badunga down and just have him watch Malik Brown and say, look how valuable he was. You could be that, if not more. Because the thing about Duke with NIL is like Duke doesn't necessarily pay these players, but because their brand is so big and their exposure, they get more money off their name, image, and likeness from other outlets. That's what we saw with Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg made what, 28 million his freshman year? Duke wasn't paying him 28 million.
No, but still, Flory Badunga is not the same as Cooper Flagg or the Boozer twins.
No.
He's not getting his own AT&T commercial, so getting paid in exposure versus getting $5.5 million from Louisville, I don't know. It may even out in the long run, but for the time being, like I said, we don't know when these and that'll have to be probably an episode at some point talking about what regulations might happen, when they might hit, and how that would affect a guy like that. If I'm Flory Badunga, I want the money, it's my money and I need it now. I'm in with the JG Wentworth and just taking the cash and, buy and everything else be damned, just go to Louisville, get all the Adidas merch you want and just like take the money and run,
JG Wentworth, 877 cash now. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. As always,
you got to hit the thing.
Yeah. As always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates we have on new content coming out. Be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. That's at Less is More Sports. Be sure to follow the side quest on TikTok. That's at BeansAd018. We haven't even talked about the most obvious move of the portal was Gavin Doty, formerly of Siena, leaving Siena to go to follow his head coach, Jerry McNamara, to Jerry McNamara's alma mater in Syracuse. We all saw that coming.
And like I said, I think that's going to pay off bigly going forward. And they're keeping Kai and Anthony, which is interesting. So
they are. And Sadiq White.
But I think we can all agree what the worst move of the portal is so far. Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan. As you can see, we hate Ryan.
This is an anti-Ryan podcast now.
It is over. Goodbye, Ryan North. Cut forever. We hate you.